All right, Ed, we're live. We're just waiting for Alex to get back in at the last minute. He froze up,
Yeah.
and it's not even cold outside. But anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, and countrymen, whether you're down the street, around the corner, across America, or somewhere around this great big world, thank you for tuning in this afternoon to the George Espenlaub Show with my friend Ed Temple. Ed, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Been a busy morning, but it's always good to be on the show. It's always good to be the sidekick.
Oh no. You're the equal. There he is.
There we go, guys. We good?
Yes, we're good.
All right, there we go. I'm using my phone. We're good now, man.
Now you're not.
Laptop's a little old.
You're not related to Steve Tasker, are you?
The kicker?
No, I think his name was Steve Tasker, the special teams guy that used to play. I want to say he was on.
Yeah, the Bills.
The Bills. There you go.
Bills,
yeah. Somewhere down the line, I am, man. My dad and his three brothers are in the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame, actually.
Oh wow.
So it runs in the family. I didn't make it, but
yeah, I understand.
My brother was pretty good at hockey, but yeah, I played in high school, but that was about it. So.
Well, have you ever seen George dance? He didn't make it either.
I don't think so.
Man, I just needed more room, man. That's all. But, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Tasker. Come on, Espenlaub, get it right. Alex Tasker is our guest this afternoon. But first, we have to do this. As soon as I find him, where'd he go? There he is. You know who he is. Here comes Dude. And Alex, that is the star of our show.
I love it, man. Little Enter Sandman. If my cousins are watching, they'll appreciate that.
Friends,
good stuff right there.
Thank you for tuning in. No, I was saying, friends, Romans, and countrymen, thank you for tuning in, and that's the show for today. We'll see you next time. Oh no, I'm only kidding. We have with us Mr. Ed Temple. Everybody knows Ed. He's always getting me in trouble, one way or another. Sometimes he gets me in trouble and I actually think I'm in trouble. And then other times he gets me in trouble and I know I'm in trouble. And sometimes he gets me in trouble and I keep hoping he gets me out of trouble, but he messes with me. It takes a long time to get me out of trouble. If you understood all that, you're more scarier than I am. But our guest today is Alex Tasker from right here in Laurel, Delaware. And he teaches at the Laurel High School. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Just want to give some quick shout outs to the kids that are watching. Love you guys. Miss you. Staff that's watching. Love you guys too. Miss you. Laurel's it's a great place to work. It's got great kids, good people. And I'm not just saying that to say that because I'm on air and they're watching. It really is. They're good people, and I mean that. And done a lot of good things there. The high school administration is doing a great job right now of making sure everything rolls out as smoothly as it possibly can with this unprecedented situation we're in. And the superintendent and the assistant superintendent have done a great job since they got there. He came there about 5-6 years ago, and our scores were low, man. They were like at the bottom of the state. And since he's been there, we've got everything up to about state average or better. So they're really doing some great things. It's a good thing to be a part of. It is. So
I think you know this fella.
I do. There he is, man. I hope he's doing well. I miss having him in class. He's one of those man, he can talk with you about some interesting stuff.
Yeah,
he sure can. Very mature kid.
He's a pistol, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
But anyhow, Alex,
Yeah.
you teach in a different way, or you have a different approach. I called it outside the box.
I would agree with that. Outside the box, we can go with that.
Where you give both sides of the story, that which is in the textbook and that which isn't in the textbook.
That's
explain
very,
that?
very correct. Yep, very correct. Yeah, I'll explain it. So I think it gives the kids, it taps into that rebel that's in teenagers, right? When you give them something and you say, look, guys, this isn't in the textbook, okay, but I'm going to show it to you anyway, right? They start asking immediately. I mean, I don't even have to ask the question, why is this not in the textbook, Mr. Tasker? Why isn't it in there? And, from right there, you got them. They want to learn stuff that's not typically taught in the school. It's interesting to them. And, when we really get going with discussions and conversations about some pretty deep topics, that's when my energy gets flowing, man. And I really, I get that intuitive feeling like this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. It's a really cool experience. I love it. I'm really glad I got into it. And it's just, it's a good thing to be doing. It's a good thing to be doing.
Ed?
I think that's absolutely right. We've had Mr. Osborne, who I feel is probably one of the nation's best scientists that is teaching in a public school. And he, one of his findings in his research is that, for example, when they teach one theory, you get a certain number of learners, and you teach a different theory, you get a certain number of learners. But when you teach two opposing theories, they actually learn more of both theories. And so
Absolutely.
I guess that's consistent with what you're saying.
Absolutely, Ed. And I saw your guys' show with him on there last week, and I was just nodding my head when you guys were talking about that stuff. That's makes perfect sense to me.
That's probably the first time somebody nodded their head watching it. That's good. They usually go like this.
Yeah, no, I was watching that, and I was like, I think I'm in the right place to do this podcast. So.
That's what they usually say.
That's the word on the street, right, Ed?
That is.
I want to say, Dax Brown, he's up there in Canada. I think it's British Columbia. Good morning, George. Walter sent me and says hi. There's a joke behind that, but I'm glad to see you're doing well, Dax. Who else we got? We got the main part here, right there. We got the main part. That's the one.
That's how you keep the marriage strong.
That's right. Almost 50,
yeah, you gotta get her up there.
almost 52 years now.
Wow.
That is a strong, blessed, anointed woman, I'm telling you, to put up with this character for almost 52 years.
Mr. Tasker said he has two sides of the story, right?
Right.
Well, I think he might have at least two sides.
Yeah, you told me
at least two sides, right?
You told me your second side, Ed. Wow. And there's Melissa Howard. Hello, Melissa. Glad to have you. Wow. See what I mean, Alex? He's for all the time trying to get me in trouble. So he is. Man, where was I? My train fell completely off the track. My, oh, my, oh, my. When you, let me say it this way. When I'd be hanging out with the kids over the years, and certain days would come up. For instance, in November, when President Kennedy was assassinated, or Pearl Harbor, or some of the other things, I would ask the kids, did they say anything about such and such today? That's I'd say, really? No, Mr. George, no, they didn't. And it makes me spit sideways because in a lot of cases, they're not teaching history as we were taught history, are they, Alex?
There are, yeah, I don't really see that too much at Laurel. I really don't. But there are curriculums that don't cover certain things, and because of whatever's on the test, maybe at the end of the year or something like that. You know, it's just one of those realities. You know, if the stuff's on the test or it's not, that's you know, motivation for some curriculums. So just how it goes.
Wow. Ed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like I said, I think that you know, when you're making things more interesting to learn, you're going to learn more. That's just the way it is. And like you said, what they've been seeing in these books, they just, here's a math book. There's no reason to buy a new math edition. I mean, it's the same stuff. But the point is, though, that, you know, the material in the book, you know, with a few revised editions, they tweak a little bit here and a little bit there. But Mr. Tasker is absolutely correct that the kids are going to be more interested when you go off a script. I give you an example. One of the first years I was, because I student taught more than 1 year, but I was so bad at it. No, just kidding. But I actually was doing it earlier than I was supposed to. And so a teacher said, "I'll let you come in my class and teach." He says, "I don't like giving up my class, and this isn't really your, you know, your internship in the first place, but he'll let me do it." And so he gave me some analysis of how I was instructed, and what he noticed was, see, at first I was reading from this notebook, you know, and I said, yeah, and I'd go through the lesson, and as soon as I put the notebook down, all of a sudden I have their attention, you know. So that taught me a lot. So the bottom line is, when you go off script, people actually pay attention. You know, when you're sticking with just the script, nothing wrong with the script, don't get me wrong. But, you know, when you going off the script is when things get more interesting, and when it becomes more personal.
Right. Yeah. And if you think it's boring, the kids are going to think it's boring, obviously. So you have to adjust accordingly with that.
What are some of the things, give us some examples of some of the items or some of the details that you would discuss in your classroom? This in the book, that not in the book.
Okay. All right. Well, you trying to get me into trouble here, George? What are you trying to do?
No, I'm just some examples.
I'm just kidding. Okay. Well, I guess first of all, let's go with JFK, right? It's pretty well accepted that the official government story we got was not really what happened, right? I mean, that's pretty much public knowledge by this point, but it's still not technically, you know, in the books. So I provide some details that are not included, such as, you know, I mean, apparently the guy who tried to assassinate the president used the worst rifle in history with one of the worst ballistic bullets in history. I mean, the thing had a round nose on it. They used to fire them and they would start somersaulting, you know? I mean, that's one of the things. See, I'm not sure how far I should go with this stuff. I mean, we get into the banking system. I mean, JFK signed an executive order. It was 00001 in June, and that was to get rid of the Federal Reserve Bank and go back to like an actual, like, tangible based currency with silver and gold. That's not in the history books either. So that's the kind of stuff I pull. It's not that it's not even a conspiracy. It's just facts that aren't presented in the textbook.
Right.
You know? So it's just a different side of the story. It's the way it is. So
let me I don't want to get Zacchaeus up a tree. But anyhow, let me say it this way. I was 15 years old when President Kennedy was assassinated.
okay.
I was sitting in the last period of my sophomore English class when the announcement came over the intercom. And so as things started to develop, unravel, whichever way you want to look at it, it didn't take long for word on the street for people to say, nah, this is just coming along too smooth. In 2 hours, you got your guy, you got this rickety old weapon, you got this, you got that, you have a police officer shot, you arrest them in a theater, and it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on.
Yep.
On Sunday, when we came home from church, we walked in, turned the television on because that's all that was there. And I think at the time we had 2, maybe 3 channels, but it was on all 3, NBC, CBS, and ABC.
Okay.
And we watched. This was the first time that America ever saw anything happen in real time on television, as they brought him from upstairs in the Dallas Police Department down to the parking garage where they were going to transport him to a different jail. And we watched as Jack Ruby walked through the crowd, stuck a pistol in this guy, and we all know what happened. From that time on, more and more, and more people knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that no, I hear the narrative, but it's not jiving up the way the narrative, what they're saying. We got our guy, we got the guy that killed President Kennedy, blah, 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 and on and on and on and on and on. And for years, they had the Make Fast Warren Commission, and one man, 3 shots, the magic bullet, and this and that and other things. Don't matter what people saw, don't matter what people heard, don't matter what was on film, don't matter as far as ballistics goes and all these other things. This is how it went down. So yes, I know exactly what you're saying. There's an interesting thing here that I want to share with people. Let me find it. Because Alex has a, what we call it, Alex? I know it's a tattoo.
Yeah, that'll be a good segue into this segment.
What's the word for it? Is it a, there it is. You tell us what that is.
All right. So what you have going on there, first of all, about 8 years ago, I had to make a change in my life that required, a change in attitude and change in spirit, basically. All right. So I got really into spirituality and consciousness and all this kind of stuff. I tried to edit that photo a little better so it didn't show so much and just show the tattoo, but that's fine. So what you have there is the lotus flower. I just got really into ancient Egyptians when I started getting into spirituality, because there's a lot of stuff there that's not talked about that they really knew about, and it's really cool stuff. But the lotus flower there at the bottom is their symbol for rebirth, because it only blooms during the daytime when the sun hits it, then it goes back underwater at night. So you can see the resemblance there for rebirth. You got the 2 hands there right above it. That symbol is Ka in ancient Kemet in Egypt. That's their symbol for the physical projection of the spirit, which is the personality. In the top left there, you got what looks like a sun disk, and that's the represents the cycle of Aten, where the sun is during the day. We'll get into that, but that's the highest stage of consciousness, like spiritual enlightenment. And then, of course, you have the pyramids, and there's 5 there. And so the civilization that apparently created these things, technically known as Kemet. Kemet means the black land, that soil, that black soil that they used to get when the Nile would flood. That's where they got the name for their civilization. And they believed everything was in 5s. All right. So they had the 5 houses, which were just structures. In their language, it was called Per Ka, which is the tomb, Per Ba, which is the temple, Per Wer, which was the school, Per Neter, which meant house of energy, and Neter is actually where you get the Greek word nature from, and also Per A, which is where the word pharaoh comes from, if you can see that resemblance there. Now, technically, this goes against basically every single textbook you see out there, but this is according to indigenous wisdom keepers from Egypt, all right, from their tribes, that technically there was no male pharaoh ever. That word was meant for, the high house was for the woman, okay? They were a matrilineal society. It was not run by males, and the woman chose who the king was. So he was the king, but she was the pharaoh. So we look at it through our lens of Western society, and we are a patrilineal society, right? Everything's male dominated, everything's left brain thinking, and they just were a very different civilization. And according to these, indigenous wisdom keepers, they had a very good society. There was no war. Imagine that, right? It's interesting to think about that, everything being run by a woman being so different like that, right? I mean, especially as a male, kind of makes you wonder, like, maybe it was bad that we made that switch. But yeah, we could talk for hours about that just alone. But then with that too, you have the 5 cycles of the sun, which was Keter, Ra, Un. Un's where we get noon from. That's when the sun's right where it's at when it's noontime. And then Aten and Amen. So they believed everything was in cycles of 5. All right. And they also believed, this is going to sound crazy to some people, but give it a chance. They believed that we were born with 360 senses, not just the 5 that were commonly taught. Okay. That sounds pretty out there, but if you think about it, though, it's really not. So your intuition, right? Those thoughts you get that tell you, I should be doing this, I probably shouldn't be doing that. Maybe that was one of their senses. That energy you can feel when you go into a room, right? When you can feel the tension or anxiety or love. I mean, you can physically feel that. Your body has a reaction to that. We send off, magnetic waves to people through our heartbeat, and our brain picks it up. Like, we can actually communicate with people without communicating. So it's really not that far-fetched if you look into it. So, but they believe everything's in 5s, and that'll come up later.
Ed?
It's fascinating. So just to go back, can you give an example of something that came in 5s? What's an in 5? For example, 5 pyramids, is that what you're talking about? Or
yeah, so there's 5 main pyramids at Giza, then the 5 houses that I mentioned. The tomb, the temple, the school, house of energy, and the high house where the woman lived, the leader. And then the 5 cycles of the sun. And Ra is commonly associated as the sun god, but it's really not just one god, okay? We're talking about teachings that were before organized religion. So it was just part of a cycle. So there's 5 cycles of the sun where it literally is in the day. And then also 5 stages of consciousness that are directly related with the cycles of the sun. So if you were at Aten, you were at the most enlightened stage. And if you go down, you were less enlightened. And then Amen is total darkness. So those are 3 examples of stuff that they chose to have in 5s.
So let me see if I get this right. When you was talking about the senses, I was sitting there thinking, yeah, Espenlaub, you don't have no sense, so you don't got to worry about. Look at Ed; he's quick to agree. You don't have to worry about 5 or 360. It don't make no difference. But so the women. Thanks, Ed. The women. Are you saying that they picked the pharaoh, or no? The pharaoh was the woman.
The pharaoh was the woman, right? That was the term given to the leader, but they only called the woman that. And then we went, and all this stuff is from like indigenous tribal people from Egypt, which is left out in mainstream Egyptology and archaeology. They don't account for the oral tradition. Like we account for that here in the United States, right? You have oral traditions from all kinds of tribes, everything, right? They just totally didn't even acknowledge that. So all the stuff I'm telling you is not just off the top of my head. It's from people that actually have wisdom passed down. So
they were like outsiders, these people. I mean, as far as the history part goes.
Correct. Yes. I mean, the land of Kemet, the civilization of Kemet, it's Khemet. It's, I mean, information's out there. It's just not mainstream. That's basically the way to sum it up. It's just not mainstream. You never hear about it. You just hear ancient Egypt. You never hear about the land of Kemet. So, because they all used to be green around there when the pyramids are. it used to be very lush land, and that's what they lived off of. So,
Ed, you got that look on your face.
Yeah, this is so just to be what era are we talking about here? What's the the date, or do we have a date?
right. So we do have some dates. This is what goes against mainstream too. This is theory, obviously, but they're saying that the dates for the Cometian civilization go back as far as 13,000 years. So you're talking before dynastic Egypt with all the dynasties and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And so, and then until when do we know?
So that's where it gets interesting. So they're finding more evidence now that a cataclysmic event might have happened around 12,800 years ago. I should have done more research on this before I came on, but they are finding evidence. And if you look at all of the traditions in the whole entire world, they all have a story. I'll call it a story because I don't think it's a myth of a flood. So that is part of the explanation why they might have had very superior technology, possibly. I mean, it's possible. And then that information was lost after the flood. And then here we sit now, and we think as people that we're the most advanced people to ever live on the earth. And there's a lot of evidence coming out right now that would suggest otherwise.
Let me ask you this. What have you ever heard of Egyptians talking about living with dinosaurs?
I've never went down that path. No.
Okay. I know that Mr. Osborne has he hasn't finished any of his books, but he's got a bunch of books that he started writing, and some of which are some of those ancient societies, like in different parts of Asia, as well as in different parts of Africa. They have all kinds of things that they've etched in stone, and that were images of humans with dinosaurs. But anyway, so I just wondered if that was part of the this Egyptian history.
Alex, you mentioned something interesting, and I have always said this. Of course, when Espenlaub says something, they just look at me like, yeah, okay, whatever,
Okay.
Just go over there and sit in the corner. We'll get back to you later. But I have always thought, you don't have to laugh, Ed. See what I mean? I've always thought that man at one time was much more intelligent than we are now.
Right. So it's not linear. Right.
Yeah. People nowadays like to think that we're going upward. We're down here in the low spot, and then as we climb up, we get smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter, to where we're at right now. I think it was just the opposite. I think we were up here somewhere, and it's just been downhill. I don't think we know. Now, we know a lot, but I don't think we know as much as people think we know. Does that make any sense to you?
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with that. Yeah, 100%. I think it's more of a cycle than a linear path upwards, like the mainstream archaeology and historians suggest. I think it's definitely more of a cycle.
For instance, and I guess I could show people some of these pictures. If I didn't put these in order, Alex, you just holler at me, and I'll.
All right, it's okay. If you didn't, we'll just talk about them and we'll just keep going. It's not a big deal.
All right, this is the inside of what?
That is one of the pictures of the inside of the Great Pyramid in Giza, Egypt. It's the biggest one there. Now, if you notice, it's a little dark, but do you see any hieroglyphs or any writings on the walls or anything?
I don't.
No.
Shouldn't be able to, right? So that's just my first point. I don't want to like reveal everything at first, but so there's no. That's just one picture, of course. I don't know if you have the other ones, but anybody that's been in there, there's another one. Okay. Anybody that's been in this pyramid, whether it's a scientist, archaeologist, tourist, will tell you there's no hieroglyphs or any markings in the Great Pyramid. And when I'm talking about scientists, I'm talking about former NASA scientists and that have been in there. And well, I'll get to that in a second when we go to the next pictures. But
okay, let me get the right one.
So yeah, there's that's all I want to. There's another one. So there's no hieroglyphs or anything like that in the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Okay.
All right.
Now
So this picture, yeah, here we go. All right. So this is from a tomb in Egypt. All right. Notice it's very decorated. There's drawings on the walls. There's statues, all kinds of stuff there, right? If you keep going to the next two pictures, there's another one that's beautiful. Got all kinds of colors and stuff there. Now they say that they wrote like spells and stuff on the walls and any information that they would want these powerful people to have when they got to the afterlife and all that kind of stuff. So they decorated it. You know, it was their place of burial. There's the last one. I mean, it was just beautiful work they did with this stuff. I mean, it's magnificent what they were able to do back then. So those are pictures from tombs. All right. So you take the pictures from the Great Pyramid, there's no markings, hieroglyphs, anything in there. And all of their tombs have markings and hieroglyphs everywhere. All right. There's one of the NASA scientists that's been in there and done a lot of research. His name's Christopher Dunn. He does he's got this whole thing online, the Giza power plant and everything. He went in there and he said, look, from being in here, it looks like something you would not want to be in when it's on. Okay, so trust me, there's a lot of research on this stuff. So technically, that would be like us decorating our oven. You see what I'm saying?
Our oven?
Right, our oven, right? Because why would because you wouldn't want to be in there when it's on. Why would you decorate it? Okay, so they look nothing like any other tombs in Egypt, like any tombs.
What you thinking, Ed?
Why do you think that is?
I think because they were used for a different purpose. We're going to get into that in a little bit here. There is evidence to suggest that they were used for some kind of electric conductivity, and they were not originally intended to be tombs.
Fair enough. Is this going
Fair
over
enough,
your head,
right?
George?
No.
Is this going like this, George?
Nope.
The pictures should help. When we get into this,
it's sticking, Ed. It's sticking.
To the 1/2 brain cell.
In my 1/2 brain cell. Look, that puppy's firing this afternoon. So
one more thing real quick about tombs. So they've never found any bodies in these Great Pyramids either at Giza. Okay, so no bodies either. It's another thing that should be talked about.
all right, let's see. What do we got here? Is this the one?
We got there. Okay, yeah. So that's when I present this in class, I always ask the kids first. Their warm up when they come in the classroom is, who invented electricity or who discovered it? All right, and what do you think they say?
Edison.
Yeah, who originally discovered it, right? Benjamin Franklin, right? This is called the Baghdad Battery. It was found in Baghdad, Iraq in 1936. And they've dated it to be about 2,000 years old. Okay, so you got the copper and electrical conductivity going on there. The next picture, if you go to that real quick, there it is. So that's the way this thing worked. It was a battery. They've tested them. All you need to do is you put a little bit of any kind of citrus juice at the bottom of it, and you can conduct an electrical charge. So they literally have ironclad proof that they knew about electricity about 2,000 years ago. But we still are under the notion that Benjamin Franklin discovered it in the late 1700s or mid 1700s.
Let me ask you something, Alex.
Yeah.
This Baghdad battery that we're looking at.
Yes.
Has anyone replicated one exactly like that? And if so, how much juice does it put out?
They definitely have replicated them. I'm not sure about the voltage or anything that they do put out. I don't think it's that great though. I don't think it's that great. It's not like it could power a house or anything like that.
Well, just think about your brain there, Mr. Espenlaub. It's just not firing on all cylinders.
So you're so this could possibly light a light bulb.
Yeah, I would say so. It would be really cool to know what they actually used it for, but I mean, it's definitely, I mean, it's proof that they knew about electricity 2,000 years ago.
That's wild. That's wild. Is this Baghdad battery? Have they found any other materials that go along with a battery, such as some kind of electrical device that this thing could operate, or no?
Not that I'm aware of. It's I mean, this stuff could be out there. It's just, I mean, if it was discovered in 1936, it's kind of frustrating that there's not more, attention on it, and like there is some other things. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty significant finding. Like that should be mainstream information, I would say. So
That is interesting. I'd like to see someone come up with whatever that battery was for. I'd like to see, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, if there's science teachers out there looking for a project, there's one for you right there.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So then we come to this.
Right. So
the pyramid door.
This is a view of one of the doors. When they were in motion and working, first of all, they were 20 tons. Okay. And apparently you could push them open with your hand. That's how well they were engineered. They've not been operable for quite a bit, and that's all based on people from at least 500 years ago looking at them. But, that's what they say. The key is, though, not if it can be moved with your hand or how much it weighs or any of that stuff, though. The point is, tombs didn't have doors on them. They weren't meant to be visited and stuff. They put everything inside, and then that was it. They weren't. It's not like today where we go visit graves and stuff. You didn't go in the tomb after that. That was it. They sealed it off. So the fact that there's a door on there, 2 doors actually, that's just a closer up picture of it there. So just very, very interesting that you have these things so far that don't resemble tombs in any way. And we're just really getting started. So
these pyramids,
yeah,
they're humongous, right?
They are. That Great Pyramid alone contains 2.3 million stones. They are an average of 2 tons each, and we literally cannot replicate that exact pyramid or anything close to its size. We literally cannot do it. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they knew something, right? I mean,
even with all of our ingenuity, the high-tech tools, we can't replicate what they
can't do it.
That there alone is mind-boggling.
Right? I mean, it's raises some definite questions.
It sure does. It sure does. All right, let's look at this.
Okay, so yeah, you got now and then there. When they were originally created, they had limestone on the outside. Okay, you can still kind of see that there is some left at the top there on that left picture. What happened was about 300 years ago, it was getting so bad falling off that they just repurposed the limestone for other things. They do that a lot with these stones and other rocks in Egypt, unfortunately. But so limestone acts as an insulator. It's not the best one, but it does not trap heat in. It slowly lets it out. Okay, so I mean, is there a reason they put the limestone on there? Did it have something to do with electricity? I guess that's debatable, but they did in fact insulate it with limestone on the outside. And it's theorized that the cap of it was gold. It's missing now, which could make sense considering it was gold. So, but they can't prove that because gold is obviously another great conductor of electricity. So,
wow. So that's how it looks now.
right.
And this is supposedly how it looked in the beginning, right?
Supposedly how it looked in the beginning. And I mean, the pyramid, it's not just the limestone. I mean, they got dolomite, which increases electrical conductivity depending on how much pressure you put on it. There's granite in there. All the passageways are lined with granite. Okay. Granite is slightly radioactive. There's high amounts of quartz crystal in there. Anybody who's got a battery on their watch, quartz crystal, if you just shake it back and forth, you can charge it. The granite also ionizes the air inside the pyramid, and which increases the conductivity of electricity. So is it possible that they just put all this stuff in there just because they thought it looked nice? Sure, that's possible. I just, along with many others, believe that they were used for, something other than a tomb.
Mr. Tasker, what are you trying to do? Get the kids to think? This is not good.
Yeah, I do get them to think. I present stuff to them like this all the time. And I mean, as you can see, it's all fact-based. I mean, the stuff's literally made out of all that stuff. It all conducts electricity. I mean, it's possible. I'll put it this way. There's more evidence that these things had something to do with electricity than there is that they were tombs.
So all the tombs, the pyramid tombs,
right?
They were sealed up, no entrance, nothing. But these had doors, so they were made for something specific if they had a door on it, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it sounds crazy to a lot of people, but I mean, I've been looking at this stuff for years now and looking at lots of independent archaeologists and scientists. And I mean, it's really, when you watch their stuff, I mean, it's just absolutely fascinating. I mean, there's a document, I don't know if it's on Netflix anymore, but it's called The Pyramid Code. And it's basically the most mainstream this stuff has ever been. Great documentary. I highly recommend people watch it. They explain it a lot better than I do. I can tell you that.
Wow. Ed?
Well, the bottom line is that, are you trying to tell me that the books don't contain all the information that kids could, and adults for that matter, that would make the material plenty more interesting and certainly would give the kids some creative extension?
Right. I mean, so, whether it was used for electricity or not, it's definitely more interesting, right? I mean, you talk about all this crazy stuff about electricity, and these people are supposed to be, we basically call them cavemen and stuff, right? I mean, there's no way they could have any kind of technology that we don't have, right? Here's a little something from a college textbook about the pyramids, all right? Real quick. The largest and most magnificent of all the pyramids was built under King Khufu about 4,500 years ago. It was a tomb. It expressed the the royalty and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's all it says about the pyramids, and there's 2 paragraphs in a college level history textbook.
That's it?
Yeah. That's literally all it says. There's 2 paragraphs.
So what got you interested in all this?
So when I was trying to make some changes in my life, I got really into spirituality and consciousness and all this stuff. And these people kept popping up when I was doing the research. And I was like, at first I was like, what are these people talking about? These ancient people having higher consciousness and maybe being able to do stuff that we couldn't do. And it steamrolled from there, man. I mean, can you imagine, like, we use about 10 to 20% of our brain at any given time, right? So this is a theory, of course, but what if these people...
Not George.
That?
Not George.
Okay, all right. Well, what if these people were using a lot more of their brains at that time?
Oh.
Like, it's a what if, of course, but
right.
If they were, it could explain maybe they knew how to do some things that we don't know how to do. So.
Well, you might be going against the whole Prussian education model if you keep on trying to get these kids to think. This is scary stuff here. You're gonna, instead of producing the George Espenlaubs, you might start producing some cures for things. I don't know. We may not be sitting here talking about the coronavirus. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, it's the kids love this stuff, man. I mean, they do. Sometimes they get annoyed because I talk about it too much, but they do. They like learning about stuff that's not mainstream. They get it. They're smart.
Now, the Egyptians were well advanced in medicine, well advanced in mathematics. Somebody had somebody had to know something to build these things when it comes to the mathematics and so on and so forth.
Correct. Yeah. Well, the Pythagoras, right? Pythagorean's theorem. He attended. I'm not going to say he got his formula from them, but he did attend Egyptian mystery schools. So there's definitely a possibility there that he picked up some stuff up there. I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Wow. Interesting.
So where are you going to go with this? What's the end game with all this alternative viewpoint?
So the end game is, you want kids to question stuff. All right. You don't want them to just sit there in life and just take everything as gospel, just because, somebody on TV says it, or somebody that we elected says it, or, you want them to question stuff. I'm big on Einstein's quote. I know he's got like 3 million of them. But he said that education is what remains when you forgot what you learned in school. So, but to be honest, I mean, most of the kids aren't going to remember a lot of the stuff we teach them in the actual classroom and the content. I mean, I think that would be impossible to remember all that information, right? Mm-hmm. But the way they think is going to remain with them for the rest of their lives. So I think it's extremely important that they learn how to be thinkers and question stuff, and not just, take stuff on its face value.
Right.
Very important skill to have.
Key word, thinkers. Thinkers.
Yep.
That thinkers. We need thinkers. Tell me
Absolutely.
what.
All right. So this is the first picture of that. They actually did this live, as you can see on National Geographic. I think it was 2002, maybe. They decided they saw some openings in what they call the Queen's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, and this is what they found. So what you're looking at there is those two pieces that look like they're kind of hanging there towards the top. That's actually copper. And there's a better picture of it up close. Actually, they found it in 2 chambers. This might be the one from the other chamber, but they found them in 2 chambers, and you can kind of see like that might be erosion there. But if you look at it from a scientific point of view, like a battery, it could possibly have a positive and a negative charge going on there. I mean, why else would you put copper wiring right there like that? I mean, I can't see any other reason why you would do that.
Wow. What's this?
That's what the pyramid's sitting on top of. It's sitting on top of an aquifer, which is limestone. So anytime you got running water, you can generate electrical current. Simple experiment, sometimes they do in science class. You can literally just take an LED light and divide a stream of water like coming out of a faucet, and you put the LED light under the divided water, and the light will light up. So not only is it an aquifer it's over top of, but it's also limestone, which increases the electrical conduct. So they build on top of an aquifer, and this is done not just here, but in South America. A lot of those temples are built on aquifers just like this. So these aren't the only people that decide to do this. And I mean, she got all this stuff that has to do with electricity, and it's built on top of an aquifer as well. Stuff starts adding up here. You're like, why is this not even, there's nothing about it in textbooks or mainstream history or anything. This stuff starts to add up.
What about, let me find my spot here.
All right, that's a little bit out of order.
How about that?
There we go. There it is. Okay. So anybody who's seen Ancient Aliens or anything, I mean, personally, I don't believe that aliens helped them. I believe they did this on their own. But anybody who's seen that show has seen this, what they call the ley lines. And what those are, they are the lines for the telluric current that runs throughout the earth, which is just underground electricity. All right. Now, right on that, where they intersect right there, that is where the pyramids are. So you add that in there too. I mean, they just happened to, I mean, that technically you could argue that's coincidence, right? I mean, of course that's possible, but to have all this stuff we just looked at before, then on top of that, put it right smack dab in the middle of an intersection of two ley lines like that. I mean, we were talking before, George, there's the I could have picked a better graphic for that, but they're all over the world, and a lot of megalithic ancient sites are on these ley lines. They obviously knew something about electrical current in the earth. I mean, technically, could you say that's coincidence? Yeah, you could, but to me, I don't consider it coincidence.
But but for people all around the world to build these structures in these particular places,
right?
The odds of that happening just out of coincidence is out of this world, right?
Yeah, it's pretty close to impossible. It is.
So, just give me your thoughts. They build them on these ley lines.
Right.
They serve no purpose as far as a tomb is concerned.
Correct.
They had no hieroglyphics, no writings, nothing on the inside. What do you think they were for?
If I'm looking at all this stuff again over the years, I definitely believe that they were used for some kind of electrical purpose. When you look at all the evidence, I mean, I think it's pretty hard not to come to that conclusion. I mean, let's put it this way. If I gave the kids an assignment, right? I said, here's some evidence on the pyramids being energy sources. Here's an assignment on them being tombs. Okay. The kids that I gave the assignment to about the energy source part would get a better grade. They would literally have more evidence than the kids that were doing an assignment about them being tombs.
Wow. Ed?
It's fascinating stuff. So, yeah, I have heard people have said that aliens did the pyramids, and they've also said that they were largely created by Jewish slaves or Hebrews at the time. So,
right.
What do you think about that?
So this is actually surprising. There's a mainstream lesson by the DBQ project, the document-based question project, that actually provides evidence that slaves did not build the Great Pyramid and the others right around it at Giza. So it's not like they didn't build them at all, because they did. But these particular pyramids, the people that built them were buried with artifacts and stuff, and they were given a proper burial. And they didn't do that for slaves. So I mean, there's literally a mainstream lesson about that. They definitely did build them. These particular pyramids, though, I don't think so. I do not.
If they didn't, who did?
I really think these people knew a lot. I think they were using a lot more of their brains than we do. I mean, think about it too. We have so many more distractions today. I mean, they were just sitting there. They didn't have TV and news and Facebook and all. They were just sitting around thinking about stuff. So they weren't being dumbed down by a lot of the stuff we have today. I really think they were using a lot of their brain and figuring a lot of stuff out on their own. It's possible. Very possible.
That's possible. That's a good point. That's a good point. So Ed, the Hebrew slaves built, as you were saying, on one hand, and Alex, if the Hebrew slaves didn't build these things, these let me call them electrical towers, just to break it down. Who built them in other parts of the world? Like down in South America, you can find them. In Asia, you find them all over the world, and they're sitting on them ley lines. Who built these things? Each tribe. Is that who built them, or was?
So you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a possible explanation. In I think late 90s, early 2000s, they actually found Mayan inscriptions inside one of the pyramids in Egypt. All right. And they had indigenous people from the Mayan tradition come and verify them, and they did. So there's Mayan inscriptions in Egypt. All right. So you could obviously suggest that they were in some kind of contact. And the ancient Egyptian word for water is Maya. So this is the theory, but they could have got their name from the Egyptians, as the people that came across the water or something like that. I mean, that's a theory, but the fact is they found Mayan inscriptions in Egypt. So, I mean, obviously they didn't get there by accident. So it's quite possible. We don't know how far back people were in communication. We really don't. A lot of stuff's still coming out right now. There's lots of civilizations that still have to be investigated. In the Amazon, for one, I mean, it's 7 million square miles. We've torn down about 1.5 million of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we still under the water too. I mean, there's so much stuff out there. I mean, people can do their own research on this subject. There's so much out there that we haven't even investigated yet.
Scott Middleton says they found 3 on the North Pole.
3 what?
Pyramids, I guess.
I haven't heard that, but I wouldn't doubt it.
So, if they find from the Beers wording in Egypt, and that causes someone to stop and think, no, wait a minute. South America is a long ways off from Egypt, correct?
Sure is. Mm-hmm.
How did the Mayans get to Egypt, or how did the Egyptians? You know what I'm asking? I mean,
I absolutely know. I know the Polynesians were before what we're talking about right now, but I mean, they literally navigated the Pacific Ocean with nothing but the stars, in basically overrated canoes. I mean, it's not like they were on these 50-foot yachts sailing. I mean, they were literally just like catamarans. So it's just, I don't see any reason to rule it out.
Yeah. So, and I've often wondered about that. If Pete lives way over there and Harry lives way down there, and as far as our little mind is concerned, yes, Dad, I opened my door up for that one. I deserve whatever you give me. But when we think, no, way back then, Pete couldn't possibly go see Harry, and Harry couldn't possibly go see Pete. But somehow, some way, those things just didn't end up there and back here again. Somebody had to get from point A to point B, and from point B back to point A, right?
Right.
So I can see where in a classroom, if the teacher laid this stuff out for me, I can see where I would get a spark. That I did it again because they'd give me that look. I would get a spark, and that would really turn my crank and want to find out some stuff, which would lead to more questions. And by the time it's all over with, Alex, do you agree? We end up with more questions than we do answers.
Exactly. And that's, when it gets to that point, I don't even have to do much. The kids just go and they ask questions and they get into it. They start debating with each other. It's really cool. It's a cool experience. I love it when they're interested in the stuff. It's just awesome.
And there's not a lot of people that I got to be honest. I'm dual certified, so one of them is social studies, and I didn't really get into the Western or Eastern or Western Civ as far as that goes. I would rather, for me, I like getting into the the social sciences that are other than the hardcore history. I like talking and comparing things and contrasting things and getting into deep discussions. But there's probably not a lot of people that are that, like you said, the college textbooks are limited in their descriptions. there's probably not a lot
Right.
of people coming out of college or teaching these types of things unless they were, like in your case, inspired to do it. So it's kind of, I think that makes you pretty unique.
I appreciate hearing that. That's it seems natural. It seems natural to do stuff like this. Yeah.
It is most amazing. Now, I used to, and I haven't had time. I just haven't had time for almost the last year now to sit down and watch. But I used to peek in on that ancient aliens and things,
Yep.
and it would cause my brain housing group to spin sometimes, because some of the things that they were saying, you stop, you think, that makes a lot of sense, and I've heard that before, where these particular people, they found their writings way over here, and
Yep.
I heard that stuff before, and I've always thought, how do they do that? So man had to be much more intelligent and use much more of his brain than we do today. And I think you hit the nail right on the head, Alex. They didn't have Facebook. They didn't have all these distractions that we have today. So they sat around and they thought.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. And I can see in a classroom where that would light it up.
Scott Middleton said it won't let him share the photos, just so you know.
Okay.
Okay.
I could see where that would really fire these kids up. And I think you're doing a fantastic job with throwing that out there. Have you through this particular thing that we've been talking about? Have you thrown that out to the kids in the classroom?
Oh yeah. If they're watching this, they're like, oh, here goes Tasker again with his crazy stuff. But yeah, I'm telling you, sometimes they get sick of it. I talk about them so much, but yeah, they know very well that this stuff exists and it was possible. Definitely. Do you have I definitely want to get to. Do you have that next one up? I think it's got the Tesla tower next to the pyramid.
Mm-hmm. Is it that one?
There it is. Okay, so and when I bring this up in class, I'll say, like Ed was talking about earlier, I'll say who invented the light bulb and who made electricity available on a huge scale, and of course they all say Thomas Edison, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask them if they've ever heard of a scientist called Nikola Tesla, and I think 4 or 5 of them around there out of all my students know who the guy even is, except for, oh, does he make the cars? And of course he doesn't. They're just named after him. But on the left there is his tower. Now, obviously that's metal and the pyramid is stone, but you can see the obvious resemblance here from the both of them. Now, the reason that Tesla is probably not talked about as much is because when him and Edison were basically battling for this electricity thing, and Rockefeller was basically deciding who he wanted to fund, he went with Edison because Tesla wanted everybody to have access to this energy for free. That was his plan. He wanted everybody to have it for free, and Edison wanted to charge for it. So Rockefeller obviously went with the money. Now, Tesla filed a patent in 1897 where he claimed that 30,000 feet up in the air, you have the ionosphere, which is rarefied air that conducts at a high voltage. And that with his tower, as you see in the picture, this is a real thing too. He did it. He conducted an experiment in July of 1903. Eyewitnesses, all kinds of stuff. So he filed a patent that he could wirelessly transmit energy, electricity through the air in the ionosphere. But all that stuff doesn't really get talked about because Edison gets all the credit for everything because that's where the money was. So,
wow. And And the picture on the right over here with the pyramid,
Yeah,
that's similar to what we saw before.
exactly. Yeah, with the running water underneath of it, the two shafts. I mean, it's just to look at that and think they're not somehow related. I mean, it's just not a very intelligent interpretation, in my opinion.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Wow.
Can you imagine if we all had free electricity, though?
Yeah,
Man, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
That would be very nice. Wouldn't mind that at all.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, it'd be cool stuff.
Let me put some of these comments up here.
Okay.
Cheryl said, so glad you get excited and let your kids dig in. They need to be encouraged daily. God bless the teachers. And
Very nice of you.
Dylan was saying a lot. I don't know if he was responding to what you said or what you said.
Yep.
Of course, Cheryl laughed to say he must have been talking to Cheryl. Scott said I was wrong. It was Antarctica.
Oh man, Antarctica. I could do a whole nother segment on that. I taught a lesson about that too in school. There's some crazy stuff about it at Antarctica. Crazy stuff.
We're gonna have to get you to come back, Alex, because
I'll definitely come back, man. I'm having a blast doing this. This is fun.
This stuff is wow. Antarctica has a treaty by many nations, and why did the Nazis go there during World War II?
Yeah, I mean, trust me, we can go way down the rabbit hole on that one. Trust me. There's a lot of stuff about that.
Well, we got to get you back because I like going down that rabbit hole.
Okay. All right.
There's Mom. She said interesting. Chad said, check out Richard E. Byrd that was sent after the Nazis in Antarctica. When the ice melts, things will be revealed.
Yes, sir. That's a very interesting account he has of when he went down there. He saw a lot of stuff that, let's just say, people would call him crazy for reporting it. I can leave it at that. I trust me. I know all about General Byrd.
Well, that's what we got to talk about. How about that next time you come back?
That sounds good to me.
That Antarctica stuff, man. Okay. Where are Tesla's logs at?
Where are Tesla's logs? Like meaning his research and experiments and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, probably always research notes and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty common if you just look it up. It's not like it's not out there. I mean, all this stuff is out there. It's just not popular. There's my cousin. I hope her daughter Aubrey's in world history right now in her Egypt lesson. So she's going to have quite a different perspective than all the other kids. But yeah, that should be interesting.
Cheryl said, let's propose a free electric boogie woogie.
Yeah, I know. Right now, you're going to have all these people trying to build little pyramids in their backyard and stuff now.
Hey, let's get it to work. Whatever works, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
Sure is strange that no one except military and scientists are allowed to go there. Is that talking about the Antarctica?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Okay.
Very strange.
Wow. And so,
I guess they heard me. So now I'm gonna get in trouble because I didn't, give a shout out to all my family members, and we're Italian, so I'm gonna hear about it later.
Well, that's all right. You can.
Hey, I like real quick before you conclude the show, George. Do you know? My father is married to an Italian woman, and we went to a funeral, and I said, hey, does anybody seen Tony? And everybody got up. So I just figured everybody there had the same suit on and everybody's name was Tony. So what's up with that?
Hey, Tony, Paul, yeah, Joseph. Yep.
Yeah. Jimmy, there's a few Jimmys around. Yeah.
Do we have time to get to that Washington Monument real quick?
Yeah, let's do that while we got it.
Go to the big picture of it first. There we go. Okay, so right in the middle of the capital of our nation, you have a giant Egyptian obelisk. All right, you have these in Rome too. Right in St. Peter's Square. I was there over the summer with my family. Amazing trip. Got to see the obelisk in person. I think it's kind of strange that these objects, out of all of them, especially in the heart of the Catholic Church, an Egyptian obelisk, because they're so big on, other symbols and stuff not being good and all that. Very interesting. If you bring that next one up there. So the monument itself is obviously Egyptian obelisk, and it's 555 feet tall. So, I mean, you could read into that if you want. It's very interesting, though, that they chose 555 feet, considering the ancient Kemits believed in the 5 stages of the sun, the 5 stages of consciousness, and the 5 houses they had. So it's strange. And right there, most people don't know this, it actually says, if people can read that at home, on the top of the capstone, which weighs exactly 3,300 pounds in traditional Masonic numerology, it says "Praise God," Laus Deo in Latin on the top of the capstone, in 1-inch lettering, which I find to be very interesting. I know there might be some Freemasons watching, and I know one of the requirements for membership is that you do believe in some kind of higher power or force or something like that. Doesn't matter which one it is, you just have to believe. So I think it's really interesting that they chose obelisks in these very, very important places around the earth. They're not just in Rome and in Washington, D.C., but there are other places too. And it's very interesting. I'd love to know why they chose that. I can't seem to find the information on it, but definitely makes you think. And that is, so I've seen articles and some research that they could have put that monument inside the circle within the circle, because that is also the universal symbol for God or a higher power. The circumpunct symbol, that's where we get the term punctuation from as well. It's just a simple circle with a dot in it, if you have that one too. The next picture. Right, that's the ancient symbol for God. Then it got moved on to gold and all this stuff, but there's creation in the middle, and then everything around it, and it's a circle because they believe everything was in cycles. So you could make that argument. That's a bit of a stretch, but technically the monument is located in a circle within a circle, just like that symbol. So you can think of that what you want.
Wow. How's your brain housing group holding up, Ed?
Well, it's doing just fine. It's like I said, it's interesting, and there's not a lot of people that there's not a lot of mainstream, as Mr. Tasker has already mentioned, not a lot of that going on that's teaching about this. And I think it's fascinating because, like we always say, history in particular is kind of dry without, doing things like what he's doing in terms of all the extra stuff that's fascinating, and it makes you ask questions. The why makes things a lot more interesting than the that's.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, Alex, that you got Dylan stirred up next door.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah,
I do.
I'm gonna have to deal with him for the next several hours now. Which is good. I love it when he comes alive like that. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank you enough, my brother. I really can't.
Thanks for having me on, man. I really had a great time. This was fun. It was fun.
Look, we got to get you back.
I'm in.
That Antarctica thing is man, let's go there.
Yeah, I might. I don't know if I'll tell too many people we're doing that one, but that one. You think this stuff is crazy? That stuff goes way down the rabbit hole. There's a lot of interesting stuff about Antarctica. So, yeah, I'd definitely be. That would be cool.
Let's go down that rabbit hole. Let's.
All right.
There's so many things that goes on that we have no idea. We're just moving faster than a speeding bullet. Maybe not so much now since we've been slowed down, shut down, and all those other things. This gives us a time to stop, ponder, reflect, and think. Definitely want you to come back. I had a ball. Ed, your final thoughts?
No, it's a great time. Like I said, this is interesting, and it's always good to have a teacher on because teachers like to teach. They enjoy what they're doing. It's a comfort zone for him, and it's a lot of people listening. They probably are fascinated, just like I am, and because it's just rare. It's refreshing. It's rare. It's interesting, and like I said, it forces you to say why and what if.
Yeah, and that's when things happen, when we say why and what if, or maybe
Absolutely.
or maybe I could. So fantastic. Thank you, Alex. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, guys.
Look, I'll get up with you. We was talking before we were on the air. I'll get up with you about that. And just call me at any time. Just call me,
Okay.
and we'll get all this other stuff figured out and make it happen. Okay.
Sounds
Oh,
good to me.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans and countrymen. I hope that you enjoyed this afternoon because I sure did, and I hope that it blew the dust off our brain housing group. And whether you're down the street, around the corner, across America, or somewhere around this great big world, thank you so very, very much for putting up with me and looking in on Ed. And most of all, we thank Mr. Alex Tasker for being here. Wow, I had a blast. Let's get those watch parties going. Send it out near, far, and wide. We'll put the audio up. We'll put the videos up. The whole routine. Share it into your news stream. You get places where we can't go, but put it out there and tell everybody. Near, far, and wide. If you didn't see it live, go watch it. Go watch it because it'll really get you thinking. Thank you, everyone, for all of your comments, for all the things that you did. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your support. And until next time, I trust and pray that God will keep you right in the center of his hand. See you later, Alex. See you later, Ed.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.